This project kicked off as a fix for some soil washout we've been battling in the back of our house. We noticed this right after we first moved in. And like most of my undertakings, it grew legs and got a lot more complicated than I first figured. Throughout this video, I'll share a rundown of the backyard troubles and how we dealt with them. Over here to my left, you can catch a glimpse of the lower level retaining wall I put up a few years back. It stands about 4 feet tall, which is as high as you can go without needing a permit. You might spot some gaps here and there between the blocks. I actually planned on those blocks shifting around like that. I knew there was going to be some settling, so I built them in a way that they would have most of the support laterally to hold back the wall and not absolutely to prevent any gaps forming over time. I knew that was going to happen. The main goal was to kind of buttress up the soil against the back of the house to keep the erosion in check. I had a structural engineer come out, so I knew that all of the erosion was cosmetic. Our house is on piers, so there isn't any structural issues. We're just trying to keep the soil up against the back of the house. The wall has mostly done its job, and I'm really wanting to extend the usable space atop our backyard at the highest level to throw in a spot for cooking and grilling, and it's a place that we couldn't really use before. My strategy involves mostly pouring concrete for about every other brick. So we set up a rough form using 3 80-pound bags per brick. This has been slow and steady, but over the years, it's given us a really sturdy wall. Right now, I'm fixing some 2x12s to the existing brick to fill in a corner. Off camera, I've been using some foam to stop any concrete from seeping down in that gap you see in the middle. Here's my oldest son lending a hand by pulling out a divider from a previous form setup that we used. I try to reuse the boards as much as I can. I've learned the hard way, though, that the screws can only take so much reuse before they give out, especially when pouring concrete into the forms. I'll be in a situation where they just break, and it's a really terrible situation to be in because concrete goes everywhere. It's a huge mess to clean up, and it really is just a good way to run the weekend. You can see here I had a bit of struggle getting this corner to meet up just right, and so I took some time to tweak it and adjust it to try to get that seam as snug as I could so it would look good from the outside. Once we're happy with the setup, we clear out any debris from the inside of the form. Here's my youngest chipping in. You'll also notice the little key gaps we put in each of the lower bricks, so not the very top row, but anything below that, to keep them from sliding sideways. They really lock into each other that way. As I start on the second tier, I first dig out the hillside until I hit undisturbed soil. I've made a flat spot here, and I'm digging holes every 6 feet to serve as cleats dug into the hillside. I'm not entirely sure this step is needed, but it eases my mind about holding back any side pressure. In these holes, I'm laying down some crushed granite and packing it tight. I learned from the first go-round that I hadn't packed the ground enough or used enough rebar. For this next phase, I'm throwing in more gravel and a good deal more rebar to make sure the foundation is solid. Especially with the steeper slope that I'm seeing up here further up the hill than the more gentle slope that I was working with at the base. I got myself a Harbor Freight mixer about 7 years ago. This is the less expensive of the two I think they have, and it's been pretty reliable. Though it's a little bit underpowered, it can manage 2 bags of concrete-ish to 80-pound bags a go. Any more than that, and it really struggles. It actually really even struggles with 2 bags. Also, it's got a bad habit of snagging the pockets of my pants if I get too close, and that definitely keeps me on my toes. Today's been a beast. It's about 100 degrees outside, and after some heavy-duty yard work, I'm feeling every degree of it. Hoisting these 80-pound bags in this heat has me moving a little bit more slow than usual, or that I would like to in this situation, but I am keeping on. I usually aim for about 3 bags per brick, but corners and odd-shaped bricks sometimes throw my count off. Today, I mixed 4 bags due to the extra space in the corner, and any excess concrete goes right into the cleat holes that I dug earlier. A recent tweak I made was to yank the blade out of my Sawzall and use it as a makeshift concrete vibrator. I'm not the one that came up with this. I've seen it quite a bit on YouTube. But it's done wonders for smoothing out the concrete. Before, I'd bang on the forms and kind of tap on them with a hammer, which was pretty exhausting, and I'm not really convinced it did very much at all. Here's Walter fine-tuning the finish with a trowel. I'm definitely not a pro, but I think I've picked up enough from doing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bags of concrete at this point, and also just watching other people. Once the concrete is poured, I give it a light float just to make sure it's level, and I spray off any spills on the lower bricks to keep them clean. And then once it sets up a bit, I smooth it over. Right now, I'm eyeballing where to place the rebar in relation to the old wall, planning on a 2-foot gap for some plants or fancy grass. I need to line it up just right with what we've already laid down, so I'm just measuring to make sure that my gaps are correct. For this upper layer, I've upsized the bricks so I can pour 6 bags of concrete at a time. I have quite a bit of wiggle room here. Although I'm not entirely sure if I'm doing this correctly, my main focus is to reinforce the concrete column and prevent cracking. Also, you can't see it, but I've incorporated some horizontal rebar at the base to tie in to the first row of bricks into what I refer to as the stem wall. It's not technically a stem wall, I guess, but it serves a similar purpose, at least in my mind, in stabilizing any lateral forces the wall might encounter. We've also brought in some 3/4-inch crushed stone, and I've been layering it down about 2-inch layers, making sure it's soaked and packed tight. goal here is to lift the final height of the base of the wall about 2 inches above the first wall, setting a sturdy foundation for what is on top. For the footer, I'm planning on about a 16-inch wide pour, doubling the width of the wall's bricks, embedding 4 pieces of half-inch, 10-foot long rebar for some hopefully real solid crack resistance. As I'm filling out the ground here with my foot, I'm kind of checking for any soft spots in the gravel. I make sure it's all ready for good compacting, and you can really start telling when you're getting a good tight pack when the gravel starts fighting back more than you pack it down. It's nearly bouncing here. You can see here as the tamp kind of hops off the ground as I hit it, you know that it's packed really tight in that spot. I'd of course rather have a mechanical packer to make this easier, but we're making do with what we've got, keeping things nice and budget friendly. You can see here we set up some small internal concrete forms to make sure that the concrete got right up against those lower stem walls. I didn't want any gravel between the 2 layers of concrete, so those kept things nice and tight. My son's actually rigged up a really nice little slide here to funnel the concrete from the top level of our backyard down to that medium level where the form is. It turned the whole process into quite an adventure, but especially with as hot as it was a really good system. Now in that mixer, it'd been a real trooper. Even though it's a bit underpowered, it did help keep me from having to hand mix every single one of those bags. Handling 2 bags at a time was a bit of a struggle, and if you're not careful, it will snag your pants. Today was a nice fresh start. Usually I haul the concrete from the store in the same day, but handling 21 bags, I just didn't think my stamina was up to the challenge. So I had purchased the concrete the previous day and then was starting fresh. It was kind of funny. You'll see me here look at the bag. I actually thought I had accidentally grabbed a 60-pound bag because it felt so light. I had to double check that it was in fact an 80-pounder. Getting the mix right is pretty crucial. I usually start just with a bunch of water in the hopper. I add the first bag of concrete, put a little bit more water in, then add the second bag, and then finish adding water till I get it like I like it. We have to adjust the right consistency for it to slide down our slide set up correctly. So we had to kind of tweak the mixture as we went. It looks a little liquid here, but as you'll see later, it was a nice mixture for what we were doing. Each project that I do with the kids not only shapes our house and our living space, but it really shows what we can do not just together, but together over a long period of time. This concrete system was actually working out really well, which was a huge relief because I was pretty nervous about pouring this amount of concrete. In the past, my limit had been about 12 bags, so this had been a big setup for me. But right as I was feeling pretty good about things, a concrete bag burst right as I set it down. Between the heat and this new hiccup, frustration was pretty high. It turned out the lower level of concrete bags I'd put right on the dirt, and I guess they had absorbed enough moisture out of the ground that the paper was just softened up until they split just under their own weight. I was really trying here to scoop up as much concrete as I could without getting any dirt or debris mixed in. So I would just keep scooping until I saw grass or ground, and then I just kind of gave up on it. My youngest son found a rhythm that worked really well to keep the slide moving smoothly. He would tap on the side a few times with his trowel and then keep it moving along, and it slid nicely from the top down to the bottom. It was a little nerve-wracking because even though I had planned for 16 bags and had bought 20, I could tell by the 10th bag that I did not think we were going to make it. And so it was getting pretty stressful here towards the end. It was definitely down to the wire. At the very end, we scraped by with just enough concrete to finish the job, but I really had to kind of pick it out from all the nooks and crannies to get it where we needed it to be. The slide got in the way here at the end, blocking the form, so we had to tear it down quickly and just kind of chunked it out here into the yard. Just to use up the last little dribbles of concrete, and also so that we could get it level underneath where that slide was. I was smoothing it out and pushing concrete from the high spots to low, making sure it was all leveled. It wasn't looking pretty, but it was level, and it looked like we were accomplishing what we needed to for this base layer. In the end, we just barely made it. We just had enough concrete. I don't think we could have cut it any closer. I worked here with a small trowel, just trying to get any high spots to any low spots that were skipped over by the float, and just making sure that we smooth the last bit of concrete. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this glimpse into our backyard transformation and are curious to see how the whole adventure turns out, I know I am, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button to our channel. Your support means the world, and it helps us to bring these projects to light. Tune in to see what we tackle next. It's sure to be an interesting ride. Happy building, and see you in the next video.